Hey, Barbara, don't forget to.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Sure, it's not. Just not come back.
Doesn't matter where we sit. Oh, John.
We're all
You probably didn't know this.
I'm sorry.
This is the one that Miranda from Locust Grove sent out, that Jermaine announced that if you wanted to order a shirt, you could. So I did. So I ordered my Jermaine shirt. That's kind of got the same shoes, so I told her, I said, I'm not picky, I'll pick you. I am dressed up. I just got I do it. No, it's not too.
Like the first guy had an assault rifle and then everyone was
Don't worry. But yeah, we're good. Whether or not they
yeah,
of course, the black and it looks perfect on her. Yes, do that.
You're going to make some bad compliments. Make their own.
That one is she said it's fun, but she put out a Jermaine announcement and okay, I don't know. Jermaine Central is horrible. It's horrible because you can't tell what the link is. You look at it and like, well, where's the best one? It's the same color. It's not underlined. It's all the same color. Now I guess
Oh my God, you're missing. Knock me out. Knock me out. Woo! It's me.
Keep it coming.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Mike, I appreciate it.
I'm actually.
Good afternoon. Hello.
Hello.
It's Black Friday at aisle 27. Doesn't it sound like that? Yeah. Echoing? I sound a lot like somebody who wants to take your money. Right. Good afternoon. Welcome to the inaugural meeting of the Leadership Council. Oh wait, no. Okay, so if you read my thoughts last Friday, you saw that we are combining what used to be called the leadership team with what used to be called the College Council, therefore Leadership Council. The reason for that is that we, I'll own it, I was confused. I didn't quite understand how all this worked together, and it seemed like the leadership team was where really the decisions should be discussed and kind of made, and the Leadership Council wasn't getting its input at the right time in the process. So we decided, or I decided because I was very confused, that we should bring them together so that together we can make decisions and have discussion rather than two different processes. Really, it seemed like two processes to me. Does that make sense? Is there anyone in this room that got married recently? Anybody? Okay. Well, this is kind of like getting married. So we're getting to know each other, it's a little rough, we have presents, there's still an afterglow, and then you find out that they don't put the toilet seat down, and they are really crabby about leaving stuff all over the house. And then you got to kind of bump what?
I need coffee in the morning.
Yes, absolutely coffee. So let's keep our conversation going and recognize too that the former College Council is a representative group, which means they represent constituencies. And so they may have sometimes, just like you, the rest of the leadership team used to, they may express opinions or ask questions that aren't necessarily their own, but they're asking them on behalf of the constituents that they represent. And we welcome that in every way. So, former leadership team people, wave. All right. Former College Council people, wave. So just to have you, really, thank you for being here. Let's go around and introduce ourselves because it's always important to know who's in the room. Right? Does everybody know everybody? You know it's bad when Craig, Chief Brandt goes, yeah, I know. Yeah. Let's start and go around.
Scott Kemp, Interim Vice President for Student Success.
Dr. Angela Schaefer, Nursing Faculty.
Amanda Garland, Adjunct Faculty English.
Patty Liskey, Nursing and Health Technologies.
Nicole Monday, Associate Director of Assessment and Organizational Planning and Assessment.
Danielle Harkins, an instructor and Department Chair of Communication Studies, former Chair of the College Council.
Wade Stevens, Disability Services.
Brian Payton, Professor of IT.
Jim Ulrich, Operations Manager, IT.
Jen Milnick, Multimedia Support Specialist.
Misty Messmer, Dental Assistant Program Director and Local Coordinator for the Dental Practice.
Shoshana McGrady, Emerging Sciences.
I want to say something funny, but I don't. Denise Talley, Professional Technical Studies.
You can.
most recent thing to be on the floor.
Sorry.
It's okay. Sean put me down.
And she pulled me down to the ground too, so we both.
We were wrestling games.
See what happens when I'm not there to keep them straight?
And Gigi's like,
Wow.
it's been a great thing.
Cage fight. Nice.
Yeah, there was no monitor.
Oh, that's okay.
Jeremy Lamb, Application Support Manager, IT.
Say something funny.
Charlene Ferris. Charlene Ferris, nursing and diversity and inclusion council chair.
Sarah Somerville, student development. And Pam Frederick, student development.
Camille Mustachio, English faculty.
Sherry Meyer, registrar and director of enrollment services.
Anita Newhouse, Welcome Center manager.
Jessica Grumpler, SJ senator.
Rebecca Mata, student government president.
Tamara Rowe. Okay, Tamara Rowe, leadership coordinator.
Brenda Lilio, manager of services.
Yenya Yogi, academic technology and learning support.
Hi, I'm Anthony Sanchez, adjunct faculty, psychology department.
Kim Rodenberg, program manager with workforce and Denise's bodyguard.
Barb Taylor, director of business services, workforce.
Pam Duff, President's Office. Emily Spalazzo, nursing faculty, and here from the Faculty Senate.
Mike Zetz, marketing and media relations.
Shannon Williams, program manager, IT and healthcare.
John Davis, VP for Administrative Services.
Craig France, chief of police.
And our faithful videographer,
Tina.
Just so you know, this is being live streamed, correct? To desktops if people are tuning in. So this is really kind of cool. And hopefully you will get feedback as a result, and I will get feedback, and we will be a better college for that. Our agenda today is, as was sent out, and I want to try to get us out of here a little earlier because I know that there's a curriculum committee meeting today, and I want to kind of make sure that we don't miss out on too much. So what I'm going to do really quickly is I'm going to go through the strategic planning goals, and then I'm going to take up the diversity one, and then I'll hand it over. Is that all right? All right. You remember at convocation that everyone was asked to answer some questions, some typical strategic planning questions. And those data were made available for people, and some of you gave me some very good analysis of those data, which I appreciate. Thank you, Dr. Clayton. You did a great job giving me some great examples of what we could do with our strategic goals. I appreciate that. And from that, then, we have done some work, we being the cabinet, on those goals. And I'm prepared, drum roll, to announce them today because the College Board approved them last night. But let me talk about how the planning process works. So we have Germana goals, which we'll outline in a minute, and we have the Chancellor's goals, which I attached to my writing thoughts last week. And most of those goals relate to enrollment and retention and completion. They aren't necessarily in every operational area that we have, primarily focused in academic and student affairs. What we will do then with Germana goals and the Chancellor goals is every unit, and by unit I mean academic and workforce, student affairs, administrative affairs, HR, and President's Office. We will then have objectives related up to those objectives which are either the institutional objectives or the enrollment objectives. From that then, those folks who work under these units, and I use that word simply as in an org chart sort of way, will also have objectives and metrics related to units and their ride through the greater institutional and system goals. Not only that, but individuals such as myself and you will have objectives related to those goals that will be evaluated by your supervisor and part of your performance evaluation. So what we're trying to do is to make some linkages among these. One of the reasons that we're doing this is we did very well in our SATS accreditation, very, very well, except for one area. We failed what they call, is it a critical, what do they call it? Core requirement. You cannot fail a core requirement permanently and be accredited. You could, the other ones you can kind of follow through, but if we fail a core requirement without remediation and demonstrating to the commission that we fixed it, we will be put on probation, sanctioned. It's very serious. They have about 5 core requirements, is that right? 5 general?
About 10.
10. We did well on everything else, a few minor things that we're working on, but this core requirement around planning we failed. And we failed it for a couple reasons. One is that we have done a very good job in the past at Germanna doing planning, but something kind of fell apart a little bit. And there were units who did good planning, but the planning wasn't systemic. In other words, it wasn't part of the way we operated. And it wasn't systematic, which means that not everybody updated their plans, measured their success on a regular basis. And the other thing is we had about 170 some individual kind of objectives, not individual people, but objectives or goals that we said we were going to accomplish. And we required people to go in every quarter and update them. Well, that's really hard to say that that would become part of your culture, right? If you have 170 some things of an institution, they get updated every quarter, it's really hard to see where you are and how you're doing. And the accreditation agency said the same thing. So, to that end, we are going to fix this because we have to demonstrate to them, I would say, pretty substantial progress in strategic planning by March for us to avoid sanction. So the Chancellor's goals you've all kind of seen, and among the cabinet, and that would be Scott and Jean and Lori Warren and John and me, we kind of divvied these up among us, who's responsible for those areas. And you'll see that most of them are academic affairs and student affairs. This is the same information that I emailed to you last Friday, so if you want it emailed again, just let me know, but you would have this in front of you. Some of these we did very, very well on. Some of them we are quite behind. The Enrollment Management Task Force, wave your hand if you're on the Enrollment Management Task Force. It's a really important group, has tackled a fair amount of these. Let me give you an example. We met 2 weeks ago, I think. And what are we doing to bring up our application numbers? This one. Sherry, I know we're doing some special stuff, right?
We're looking at different applicant pools to target. For instance, we're going to look at the people who applied for fall but didn't come to see if we can get them to come in spring. We're pulling regular reports of new spring applications and doing proactive outreach to them. We're looking at people who were here last spring but not this spring. So we're just looking at different pools and doing targeted outreach to those. And we stood up a phone bank, or we're standing up a phone bank and enrollment lab to aid in that process.
Do you want to talk a minute about the phone bank?
So with the phone bank, basically we have staffing that do contact the groups of students that Sherry was talking about to reach out just to find out what the reasons were that they weren't able to come back to Germanna and what things we can help them with so that they would come back to Germanna.
Sometimes it's financial aid, sometimes if they had some kind of hold on their account that they weren't sure how to get off. So we just basically, reach out, try to get them to come back in, and then we have the enrollment lab set up so that the students who are coming back in, we can handle them as far as getting them registered and helping remove those service indicators and things that are barriers.
So for those of us who don't work in admissions and registration, there's a whole machine going on around credit enrollment. Sharon, can you talk to me at all, or Barb or Jean, about workforce and what you're doing in terms of recruiting and business development? Another part of the machine around numbers.
One of the things that's, hello?
Someone hand her their mic, please.
One of the things that we're currently doing is Barbara Taylor has been doing a lot of outreach with companies and school districts in the area, and we're using CredCap to our advantage to highlight the equipment and the programs that we have. Because this basically just opened this fall, it's a good way to bring people in, show them the program, show them the equipment, do tours, talk with them, and so we've actually been very active in bringing people in. Barbara, do you want to list some of the folks that have come through that we've been working on? Well,
we've had Unidyne, companies like Unidyne who are moving down into the area. Is that you or me? Tina. Let me back up and see if it'll. Is it going to freak out over here? Can you hear me? Yeah. So we've had Unidyne, they're relocating to the Fredericksburg area. They've had their headquarters in another Northern Virginia location. So they're going to be coming down here. Well, they already are in the process, I think that. And they're going to be looking for some training on various things. They're bringing several employees down, but they're also going to be doing a lot of hiring in this area, so that's very important. We want to capture their employees, train the ones that are coming down for the new modules, and also allow our students to move into some of those jobs is what we're hoping. We've had some of the K-12 school districts come through, some of the career and technical training groups come through. We're going to be conducting some open houses in the spring, so as soon as the schedule is finished, I will send that out to you, because we'll also be reaching out to the academic side to see if they want to join us sometimes for those open houses, so that it gives us a chance to talk to students, potential students, parents that might come through there. It's a great facility to have those kinds of meet and greets and show people what's available, both from a workforce, credential, learning side, as well as an academic side, and pathways to the associate's degree. So there's a whole other list, but apparently this Mike doesn't like me to talk. So if you have any questions, please feel free to call me and I'll get you up to speed.
We're also doing pretty dramatic outreach in terms of our marketing department too. So there's a whole machine working behind this, these goals. And I'll not go through that right now. With the drum roll, these are the new, thank you, Sherry. I had no idea you had FERPA knowledge and drum roll knowledge. These are the new German goals as approved by the College Board. Now that doesn't mean if you see something here that you go, oh, that's horrid, we can't have that, or how could you forget that we can't go back, because that's part of the continuous improvement process of a planning cycle. But take a minute and look at those, please. hope to send these out today, so you don't have to copy them down. And reactions. These really came from the data that you provided on convocation.
I really like them, and I think it's difficult to think of anybody's department or job that wouldn't align to at least one of these, so that makes it work really well.
That's a good question. Can you all see yourself somewhere in here?
I think they're very clearly worded and succinct as well, so I think there's not a lot of room for confusion or any misconstruing of what the message is and what we need to accomplish.
Good.
You can also see how they're mutually exclusive, which is nice.
It's easier to manage strategic planning when everything isn't all flowing into everything else. Do you need them? Denise, do you need them? Denise is going, yeah.
I thought you said you needed one.
I heard that as well. I think that, was there a head injury in there? There's comp, I'm seeing. Let me talk about something else before I go on to the last slide. Throughout these, we really attempted as a cabinet to make these inclusive. Some colleges will have strategic goals that say, we will be a diverse college serving diverse students, but the reality is, diversity is not a goal in and of itself. Appreciating, respecting, increasing, allowing for, encouraging diversity belongs in every goal that we do. And so you'll notice words here like all students, all students, all students, mission fulfillment for everybody, nurturing a culture of innovation, performance, and appreciation for all. So I want to be very clear on this. Germanna is an inclusive, equitable, diverse institution that will get more inclusive, equitable, and diverse. As we who are older disappear from the workforce scene, I didn't name names, we must have people not like us taking our positions, and some people who may be like us. And to do that, every human being who works here needs to understand that we will be a diverse institution in all ways. It is the only way we're going to survive as a culture, a pluralist culture. All right, so we're going to practice real quick. So this is how planning itself works. So you have your goals back here, and the Chancellor's goals earlier, okay? So we'll just focus on these for now, because the Chancellor's goals, there are already measures in that, and there are already people working on it. So let's take eliminate barriers to access and success for all students, okay? Remember that, that's our goal that we're going to work on. Eliminate barriers to access and success for all students. So our first goal then is access for all students. That's right, all. So on your table right now, I want you to create an objective and a measure related to that. This goal. An objective and a measure, and remember, measures are measurable. They are, you can measure them. So at your table, I want you all to come up with one. So you have to work together. An objective and a measure. For this. And you can reflect your own area. You don't have to say, well, admissions will, okay? Because this is one, honestly, where we all have a piece of it.
So for those of you watching at home, this is shared governance in action. This is to decide how we are going to eliminate barriers to access and success for all students.
Since education becomes part of by default taught or middle class.
You can try it at home.
Training for all things which are status students in the first generation of this. That's also random, just people who are trained by faculty, staff,
You have 2 minutes left. Objective and an extra 2 minutes left. One per table.
Continuing to focus on that and measure on scholarship.
1 minute. Okay, who would like to share their objective related to eliminating barriers to access and success? Who would like to share their table's objective and metrics? Scott would like to share.
Gene came up with the idea of volunteer being presented. So what I eliminate one of the barriers to access and success is students knowing that they can come to the community college. They may not know and understand that we're an open enrollment institution. So from one of Dr. Phillipson's suggestions is we send acceptance letters to all of our high school seniors in our service region. So that's what we're doing, and our objective is to increase the number of applications, and that would be our measurement, and then also look at the yield, the number of those applications that turn into students who show up in our doors.
Beautiful. Thank you. Somebody else want to share theirs? Right. Go ahead back, Tim.
Okay. Okay. Our objective, our barrier was socioeconomic was the overriding theme, but we decided we think maybe we should remove the access barrier by developing a care team designated to coordinate trainings for faculty and staff and maybe students, and primarily provide services such as food, transportation, intervention, and emergencies. We could measure that by measuring student retention after care team intervention with maybe the target of matching our targeted retention of 40%.
Very nice. Very, very nice. Carolyn.
I just got we're talking into one of these things. We kind of look back in the past to look at a group that I used to work with a few years ago, but we wanted to reduce barriers and increase access for enrollment of first-generation students. And one of the ways that we thought that is most effective to do would be to go where these potential students are, to reach them where they live. And I used to work with adult education GED students, and I would say probably 90 to 95% of those students were first gen. So I think more targeted partnership with adult education programs, adult literacy programs could definitely.
Excellent. And your measure would be an increase in that?
5% increase in those first gen students for that target.
Excellent. Anyone else dying to share? Back table.
Create a fund through the foundation for scholarships, for general scholarships for dual enrollment students in order to remove barriers of affordability and coming from first generation families, and use the success of the Todd Academy and the Dramatic Scholars programs to push it out through media in order to help raise money, and use media mentions and the amount of money raised as measures.
Ah, very good. So you actually have two goals, really, to increase the number of dually enrolled students who matriculate, but also to raise money to fund them. Wonderful. Okay, so under that then, after we plan, so our plan is to, we'll use that last one, our plan is to raise money for dual enrolled scholarship students who are coming to us, dually enrolled or finished dually enrolled. So what do we have to do? And those are called activities. Oftentimes we get kind of gummed up in planning because we think of goals as activities, right? So that's why I clarified with the back table that their goal is to raise money for those students as well as increase dual enrollment. The reason for that is otherwise raising money is an activity kind of, right? It's just, it's to a greater end, which is removing the barriers. Okay, so operational activities for that raising the money to increase dual enrollment would include, what could it include? What could you do about that?
Set up a campaign or a fundraiser.
Right, right. We could collect data, right? We could say, these are the numbers dually enrolled students we have, and these are the numbers we've had over time, and this is the number that actually ends up graduating, right? And so that becomes kind of your metric, if you would. And you could go out and say, we want to increase that enrollment, because did you know, this was shocking to me, I heard this yesterday, Virginia just graduated its largest class of high schoolers with the fewest number proportionately matriculating to higher education. Where are they going? So we would want to do something to even tell the dual enrolled students that you should go on to college. Okay, so then what's the check on that one? Remember what they said? Increase the number of duly enrolled, and what's the second thing? Raise money. So somewhere along the line, they have to have a milepost, right? They have to say, well, we'd like to get $100,000 worth of dual enrollment scholarships, and we better see how we're doing. After a year of giving scholarships, are we really increasing the number of dual enrolled students? If we're not, then what do we have to do to change it? If we are, this is the act part. If we are, then let's buy some champagne and invite the Leadership Council to your house and we'll celebrate. If we aren't quite doing it, then we have to plan again. We have to come up with a different measure. Maybe it isn't the relationship of scholarships to dual enrollment. Maybe it's not. So anyway, I wanted to quickly run through this because you all will be asked to do this in your areas and in your divisions. And we always have to remember that whatever we do needs to be measurable. Now, we don't want to have 170 measures. We might come up with institutionally a few measures, like enrollment going up, like enrollment of first generation going up, like enrollment of students of color going up, like completion and graduation for all students going up. We might take those. But underneath, there's a lot that builds up to those measures. I want to go back one more. This one, this last goal, really does pertain to the guy walking out the door right now. I actually put this one in for you, Garland. Go ahead. Well, it's okay. Go.
We got a boiler at Locust Grove that's not firing, so yeah.
Go take care of it. So one of Garland's objectives could be to keep the place together, right? Pretty much keep us hot in the winter and cool in the summer. But this is really a lot of the areas that are in John's area right now. Partially security, although security you kind of go through, safety and security goes through all of these. But especially facilities, our business office areas that we really can't live if we don't have money. I would see IT here, lots of areas. Any questions or comments on that? Is it clear? So your vice presidents will be helping you with that, and hopefully we will all have had a chance to at least do these two parts related to those, either the chancellor's goals or the institutional goals, or both, by March. So we can tell. That's when we have to get back to our accrediting agency. All right, thank you all very, very much. Related to being sustainable and being able to follow the rules and regulations of the land in which we operate, we do a study every year, called the Army Study. And I asked John if he would share those results with you all.
Barbara, be prepared for an uptick in online activity.
How many do we have now?
19.
19?
Yeah, this is it's going to double or triple after this presentation.
We're waiting for this moment.
Well, yes, exactly. For many of you may or may not be aware of ARMIX and what that is. As you can see, it's like most things in government. It's an acronym. Agency Risk Management and Internal Control Standards. This is a survey that goes out annually, goes out to actually all state agencies, where the agency has to document, evaluate, and test our internal controls across 5 different areas. And you can see what those 5 different areas are. This pertains mostly to the business office and those activities that are handling money for the most part, but some other areas as well. The RMIX requires us to complete a survey. It's a standard survey that the VCCS has developed. It goes out to each college in March of every spring, and it must include the individuals who are identified on these bulleted points. And so it goes out and it essentially is asking them questions on basically getting their perspective on how well the institution is adhering sort of to best practices and state policy. Following the assessment is Joyce here. By the way, Joyce wasn't able to be here today, so I'm both John and Joyce. But I will not espouse the Green Bay Packers. I cannot do that. I just, in my soul, I cannot do that. Transaction levels testing. Following the agency level assessment, the Joyce's office does a lot of internal testing that takes place in our systems. There are about 17 categories, 123 questions on this survey. And then basically it asks people if they agree, if they're neutral, or they disagree. And then categorize the results. If we look at, and so you can see these are the types, of, these aren't the individual questions, but these are the categories, the 17 areas. And it deals with things like segregation of duties, campus safety, what kind of internal controls we have, risk management, risk assessment, organizational structure. So the individuals who received this survey are answering 123 questions that relate, yes, I'm sorry, Jean.
Oh, who do they survey? Is it selective? Is it random? Is it a small amount? How
It's
do they
individuals and it's those folks there.
Oh, okay.
So it's the staff that are in those departments, essentially. Yeah. So you can see where we sort of rank. This was for FY17, the most recent results, where people feel like we are. Just ranked and going to go. You can see that from an internal, we had some significant improvements actually in the areas of financial aid. Some of you may be aware that we had some difficulties from a couple of years ago dealing with auditing of our financial aid. Those have been largely rectified, hence the significant improvement in the ratings. Significant improvement in ratings for the federal grants and also for accounting. As you can see, we are attributing this to the stabilization of the financial aid department and the documentation of business office processes and procedures, which Joyce and her staff have been doing assiduously over the last couple of years. Unfavorable changes from the prior surveys. So this is comparing FY17 to FY16. Organizational structure, and I'll talk about the results in a second. Perhaps some alignment with authority and the responsibility. Professional and technical competence saw a small downturn, and management integrity and commitment to ethical values saw a small downturn. Some of this we think is related to where we were last, you have to think about where we were last March in terms of the hiring freeze, not filling positions because things were very much in flux related to the budget. We didn't know how much money we were going to have, if we were going to be able to fill vacant positions. And then, of course, we had a large number of individuals in interim roles. Questions that scored the highest, these are the actual questions. So you can kind of look at these and see how many people agree, or in this case, these are high scores, so there's going to be a high percentage of individuals that agree. And it speaks to the last two, talk about the emergency preparedness plan, notification, doing drills. It's a credit to IT and safety and security, the police department, making sure that we get those things, the duties and responsibilities, no single point of failure, having redundancy built into the systems that we have. We've been very good about developing those. so that if somebody's out, something happens, we're not left standing still, if you will. Questions that scored the lowest, and some of these may not be surprising. People and employees do not work excessive overtime and do not fulfill the responsibilities of more than one employee. Well, you know, you think about where we've been over the past couple of years with not being able to replace positions fully. People have taken on additional responsibilities and wearing multiple hats. So you can kind of, you know, it's not a leap to see that those results are reflected in these questions. The number of people and resources allocated, okay, makes sense. The exit interviews included inquiries about concerns related to integrity and ethical financial reporting and internal controls. That's one we're going to have to do a little bit of a deeper dive on. It's one we're going to be tracking very carefully. We know the individuals who received the survey. We don't know the individuals who completed the survey, nor do we want to know. There's anonymity involved here. But that's something that we'll need to follow up with, really sort of at the cabinet level, to think about how can we affect change on that. And then, again, the college's organizational structure is appropriate. Again, being in flux where we were, knowing last spring, knowing we'd have a new president coming on, knowing that there were a lot of interim titles and a lot of budget uncertainty led, we think, to those scores. So as you can see, we believe this category experienced a steep decline due to the transitional nature of multiple executive level positions and the adequacy of resources to the mission. You know, not surprising given where we've been on the budget end for the past actually couple of years. And then the selection of a new college president, the cementing of the executive team. We hope we'll see higher results when this is conducted again in 5 or 6 months. Financial aid. Last year's survey had a lot of concerns about the financial aid process, largely due to a lot of turnover that occurred a couple of years ago in the financial aid department. A lot of that's stabilized now, and the results reflect that. So that's encouraging. The exit interviews is something we'll be working with Lori Bourne and the HR staff. You know, looking at doing those consistently and asking questions and making sure that we're asking appropriate questions, inclusion of ethical values and integrity as people leave the organization for whatever reason. And then the upward trend in information security is worth noting. Significant uptick from 51% to 85%. Greg, campus safety consistently has high scores from 87 to 93%. So that's a testament to the work that you and your staff do. And then accounting controls also saw a tremendous increase from FY14 to FY17. She's not here right now, so I can't embarrass her, but I will credit that to Joyce Warnicka and her professionalism and expertise in that. And she's done just a remarkable job of solidifying things and getting things in shape there. So we're proud of her. Questions, if you have any. I'm sure you may or may not have questions. If you do, these are the references. This is the Department of Accounts, which is an exciting website. Commonwealth's, of all the state agencies, Department of Accounts is one of the great ones. But it's if you want to plumb the depths of bureaucracy and the state policy and how the finances work, that's the place to go to. Any questions related to this? Joyce has these questions. She uses these questions in her own evaluation of her own department, looking and sort of tracking longitudinally how well her staff are doing, how well at least people are perceiving that, how effective they are. And so if there's anybody who wants to do that, this would be an appropriate place to include that in your assessment plan, perhaps, or in some other way that you're sort of measuring the effectiveness of your department. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, John. Oh, let's give him a round of applause. I think there were things to applaud about in that report. We really have to get to the bottom of these ethical concerns. That's kind of concerning for me. But otherwise, I think they're great progress and great improvement. And this is a great example of a what in strategic planning? Garments. A metric or measure, yes. It's an assessment. So that would be an example if somebody were in cabinet, for example, and people thought we were unethical, then we would want to say we're going to raise that score to 100%. I think we're ethical. So that's just a good example of tools that already exist, and I really, really encourage you as you do your strategic planning. We have a bazillion data sets out there. Be careful about doing your own surveys and some of that stuff because we have so much data already. You probably don't have to be honest. And if you want to, that's fine. But just be careful. Any questions, more comment, concerns? Well, there is a time for us to go around the room. And actually, Angela, I don't know if this is quite right, but just recite kind of what's going on, or raise concerns, or give compliments, or talk deeper about a subject that you want to. You just feel the anxiety. I'm so interested. But is that kind of what we're supposed to do based on your experience?
The shared government. When everybody comes together, yes.
Okay.
When you have can everybody hear me? I have a pretty big voice, but I just want to make sure.
They have to hear you.
Basically, speaking from an experience of shared governance, when you have the leadership team or everybody coming together, that is where everybody shares the ideas that they have culminated. So Dr. Kusenek would bring stuff forward to share with everyone. The big thing then is giving assignments or telling the subcommittees the work they need to do. So that plan, do, check, act is something I'm very familiar with. And I love it because it brought back some really good memories. But like if we had a research team, if we had like the curriculum team, things that you would say, okay, as we're moving forward, we need to make sure that we keep those updates. And that's what the leadership team does.
Awesome. What we're trying to do is to create a culminating place or experience for shared governance, and that's really what we're hoping this is, so that students, for example, Rebecca's going that, so that students, or if there is a disability issue with students that we're not serving correctly, that comes forward and we actually begin to report on a resolution for that. And we might actually take the goals and objectives, or the objectives that you all come up with, that we all come up with, and use that as a starter conversation too. There's a curriculum meeting, and that's why our deans disappeared and some of our faculty. So if we could just take a minute and go around the room and for today report out what you feel is important for us to know from your area. If you have nothing, just say pass. But my guess is that you all have something that should be known to a broader audience than yourself. Going forward, what we may want to do, Dr. Davis, is create teams around those goals from this group. So let's talk about how we might do that. So what's going on in your areas? Anne, you want to start? I could tell. There was this
I just walked in the door.
What's going on in your area?
Oh, I have to
1 or 2 minutes. 1 or 2
Okay,
minutes.
I just got off 95. Okay, I just attended a GCCS peer group meeting, and so Jessica Perez and I had done a couple
couple of presentations, and then Germanna was very well represented with a lot of people doing presentations and serving on a panel discussion on how we're all collaborating together to assist our students. So we had faculty members from developmental education, developmental math. Matt was there representing the coaches, and then Jessica Perez from the Writing Center, and then I was pretending to be John Burchett, who runs the Math Center. And it was really a well-received presentation for other schools, said they wish they could all work together the way we do. So yes. I was pretty proud of us. Anyway, since the start of the semester, we have experienced a 37% increase in the number, in the volume of tutoring we've been conducting. So, and so, I think some of that may be due to some of the changes, new math classes, but also I looked at the students who were coming into the Writing Center. They were coming in for 55 different courses. And so you have worked at the Writing Center, so you know how hard we try to show that we can help students with writing across the entire academic curriculum. So they're coming in for biology and chemistry and sociology and everything. So anyway, we're very, very excited about that. We have, just one last thing, tutors are embedded in 11 different classes this semester as supplemental instruction leaders. And that works very well. That was the last session I went to today, because often the students in the class will then follow the leaders back into the center and get additional support. So it's a good semester. So I'll give it to you now.
We've taken a few actions in the last couple of months, the first of which we were experiencing some problems college-wide with the public-facing calendar and room reservations. That has finally been resolved internally.
That probably needs a pause too.
The recently changed vendors, and we've been trying for at least a year, maybe longer, to get them to modify the system. With the change in vendors, we decided to take action internally. So you'll now find a complete new set of categories that mirror all the existing categories, except they have a PBT suffix. If you select that category, it will not go on the public calendar that's on the Germanna website. It'll still be visible internally through Germanna Central. So internal folks will still be able to see it, just not the public. The other item we've done recently is we transitioned to a new vendor for our security training. So that's a requirement for everyone, adjunct, staff, faculty, across the board must complete once a year. If you don't complete it, you lose your access and incremental stages until you do complete it. So it's very important. You'll get an email from information security at germanna.edu. That's safe to follow. The link, if you're concerned about it when you get the email, you can always contact someone in IT to confirm that it's the right place, but it takes about 30 minutes. The timing for when you'll receive your notification is based on your hire month for most people. Everyone won't get it at the same time throughout the year. Mine will come in June, but each month we send the notice to a different group of people. So please take some time out of your day, about 30 minutes. If you don't complete it within the month, then your access starts getting restricted, and you'll notice pretty quick. And you'll have to contact IT to get something turned back on, and we'll do that once you complete the training.
Whoa.
And going along with security, the IT department's working on getting the NSA designation of Center for Academic Excellence for Security Degrees. It's a whole college-wide effort. Everybody has to recognize the security process and implement it some way in their courses. And so Jerry Miller will be contacting individual departments, discussing how we need to do that.
For the operational side of IT, Big project we have coming up is over the holiday break, we'll be upgrading our file server. Along with that, you've probably been receiving the emails from Daniel Berman. We're asking you to kind of do some pre-spring cleaning on your network drives, pull out and archive any files that are older, or if they need to be kept there, please let us know. If they're older than 3 years and need to stay active on your drive, let us know, and we'll transition them over as well.
So I'm going to talk for distance learning for a second. We sent out our needs assessment to faculty and adjuncts. So if you could just remind your peers to fill out that survey. It helps us develop our PD, our resources, and our outreach for the next year. Thank you.
Rebecca? Oh, Angela.
I just wanted to let everybody know that, yes, we finished, well, we're still working on our merit birth and SACs, but the Department of Nursing is also going through a huge curriculum change. And because of that lovely thing that we all decided with the VCCS, we are going to be experiencing a visit from our ACE and accreditors in March. So they will be specifically coming to the Locust Grove campus, but you know, we prepare for everything. So so I wanted to let everybody know that. So if you seem a little on edge, it has nothing to do with you. The other thing that I wanted to say, since coming to Germanna, I have continued to collaborate, and I love my IT department because without them, we could not function in our lab and our simulation environments. So I'd like to give them a huge round of applause for everything. And I mean everybody in IT, everybody. From helping us with Wi-Fi, from managing our simulators, they've just done a tremendous job, and they deserve a lot of credit. And Ms. Sherilyn knows the torture that I had been through when I was trying to figure it out. But in developing that relationship, it's only helped us all at once. And that's my update.
Piggybacking on what Ann was talking about, the Office of Professional Development at the DCCS puts together peer groups in almost every area in which, whether it's instruction, whether it's supportive services. And the group that met over the last 2 days was several groups coming together. And it's a great opportunity not only to learn great things, but also share the great things that you're doing. In addition to Ann and Jessica that she mentioned, Wynn presented, Carolyn presented, Sarah who was here earlier, Heather Garita, Marie Hawley. So we had career and transfer, we had Patricia Parker, we had Taylor Landry, or not Landry. Doing talking about our summer bridge programs. So in looking at the schedule there, we had almost a third of the presentations had somebody from Germanna affiliated with it, and that's something to be proud of, that we do have a lot of great things here at Germanna to share with others. And so keep it up. If you have those opportunities, please do consider presenting on the great things that we're doing. The second thing is that Dr. Wesley and I went to ASAC Vice President's meeting last week and get a lot of different updates. I'm on the Educational Technology Committee, and if you think there's a lot that's going on, there is a lot going on. I have a whole chart of all these projects that are either started part of the way through, almost through, including, you know, we're going to have a new online application. The library system is in the process of getting replaced. The new Veterans Portal, the Credits to Careers, if you haven't had a chance to look at that, it's a great tool. Tell everybody you know that has, even if you know they're not affiliated with veterans, tell them about it. It's a great opportunity for them to kind of enter in what they've already done in the military, any kind of training that they've done, and it'll tell them, well, you know, in Germanna service region, if you study this, if you go into this program of study, you potentially could earn these credits. You know, so it opens the door for people to then, you know, once they set up that account and put in that inquiry, then our Veteran Services Office reaches out to them. So again, it's a great way to open access to veteran-affiliated students to come to us and see what their opportunities are. The financial aid automation, that's I think that one's almost done. The Navigate, that's in full swing across all 23 colleges. We talked about Ad Astra doing scheduling analytics. They're in the process of signing that. We're going to upgrade SIS. I'm sure that'll be a fun, fun project. And then the other one is that Blackboard is going away. I know there's going to be a lot of anxiety over that, and our contract with them ends in June in 2019. We had a contract that was piggybacking with Virginia Tech. They haven't used it for 10 years. The contract has to end. So as we see it, Blackboard is going away. So now's the time where we start talking about it. If they put out to bid, we don't know exactly how many vendors that have put in for a bid for it. But if nothing else, even if we stayed with Blackboard, we have to upgrade to Blackboard Ultra. So that's more to follow about that. And we're part of what we talked about last week was how do we ease the anxiety of it, and how do we get the information out there that we're going to try to make the transition as smooth as possible. So my time is up.
In workforce, we always are moving forward. That being said, we're glad to announce that we did receive our asphalt training trailer on Tuesday. Guy drove it in from Indiana. We unloaded it. We are really excited. So I can finally move all my stuff over the loading bay, which Garland will be glad of, into the new trailer. We also have been reaching out to some of the local schools. We're doing a pre-apprenticeship program in Orange and Madison. The class coming up in Madison is 22 students, and the one in Orange is 21. So that's a great entryway and a new pathway for these students. So.
And that's for the asphalt program?
Oh, excuse me?
That's for the asphalt program?
No, that's actually a general apprenticeship program.
Oh, okay.
So it covers all of our apprenticeships.
Hi, as you may know, and other people have mentioned today, we were very successful with our SACS visit, so that is wonderful news, and we cleared almost all of our assessment-related standards. As we head into Thanksgiving, I just can't help but think back about last Thanksgiving and last Christmas, and I was spending a lot of time strategizing, thinking about all the things we could do with assessment that would help us to be successful in the spring with our report, and then last Christmas, reviewing all the wonderful assessment plans and academic program reviews and putting together supporting documentation. So this year is going to be different, this Thanksgiving, Christmas, and I'm very thankful for that. And so I'm thankful to all the colleagues, dozens and dozens of people who are responsible for writing assessment plans, reviewing assessment plans, and then there are hundreds of faculty members who contribute to those assessment plans with their data. And so I just want to ask everybody who's involved, I think it's almost everybody here in this room, and those maybe watching, to take your right or your left hand and pat yourself on the back, because we really accomplished a lot. So let's all do that, if you participate in assessment plan. I also want to mention that there's one standard that we have left to work on for March 19th, and that's assessment of administrative units. That's college police, facilities, finance, organizational planning and assessment, HR, a number of different units. And so we've got a great plan in place. Scott and Lori are heading that effort, and all the writers and reviewers for those plans are meeting the Monday after Thanksgiving. So we're getting right back to it, and I think we're going to do really well for that March report. Thank you, Nicole.
Actually, we should give Nicole and John especially a round
Hello, okay, it's working. These are kind of crazy today. So over in communication studies, we're partnering with Cengage, and we're going to be having a public speaking event here, a speech competition in April 27th. It's a Friday from 1 to 4 in Sealy. And it's open submissions. It doesn't just have to be communication studies folks entering. It's for a 5 to 7 minute persuasive speech. So if you have 5 to 7 minute persuasive speeches in your classes, this is a good time to be, for those of you that are instructors, I know that's not the case for all of us, But if you have a really great student, and you're like, wow, they should do something with that, send them my way. I'd love to have them enter for this competition. There's going to be some, like a little bit of money Cengage is providing. That's great. We might have one of the authors of one of the public speaking textbooks come and be one of the judges. So it's something we're really excited about. Natalie and I have been working on it, mostly Natalie Wright, our other instructor in communication studies. So I'm really excited about it. It's a big thing. It's really hyping the communication department. It's a great like confidence building experience for students to go through the public speaking process. That's what's going on.
To be honest, many of you in student services have heard more persuasive speeches than anyone else. So if you hear a good one, send them over to Danielle.
Yeah, we can shrink it down to 5 to 7 minutes. April 27th, it's Friday. It's the one day that Sealy was available, like in the month of April. So we base it around that. It's close to finals, but it's hopefully a fun thing and not a finals thing. Thanks.
This new service, is that turning on?
Closer to it.
This new service has been doing some really good stuff, but it has all to do with our faculty and staff. Really good instructors, really good staff people that really help our students out. We had a couple good things happen. We had a summer program 2 years ago, and the students that attended the summer program that came to fall semester, 100% of those students enrolled the following fall. So that's really big. And then we had a lot of students start in our lowest level of developmental. And our milestone award ceremony a couple weeks ago, 6 of those students are now graduating and moving on to some great schools. And one of them is going to JMU in the spring, which is amazing. And it's all to do with the wonderful partnerships that we have here at Germanna Community College. And last but not least, this Thanksgiving will be our 3rd annual Thanksgiving dinner for students who don't have anywhere to go for Thanksgiving. So we have it right here at Germanna Community College.
Ann mentioned and Scott mentioned the Peer Conference. Mark Haynes and I presented this morning about the SVB module regarding advising that we launched this fall, and we're seeing good results so far. We actually engage the audience in the activity that the students do in the class, and the comments and expressions on faces as we were going through and having them do that activity was incredible. They were very engaged. I saw a lot of, oh my God, that's great. So we were really excited about that. We're going to be collecting some data to see, how we did, what kind of difference it's making. On an anecdotal note, I had a faculty member email me and say, whatever the outreach is that you're doing for our students to get them to come to advising with faculty, she said it's working, that she's having more students come to her this semester than all of the semesters she's been here at Germanna. So it's working, and we're happy about that. And then one last thing, the Master Advisor course, level 2, is launching in February. That's a 5-week course that is not self-paced, and it is more interactive than the first. People, the faculty that enroll in it will be engaging with one another to solve real-world advising issues, and only those who've completed level 1 will have the opportunity. So if you haven't taken level 1, get faculty that are in the room. Please take that so that you can get in on the Master Advisor level 2. There will also be one made available to staff at the college. We did that with Master Advisor level 1. We had about 25 people enroll on the staff side, so we think we're making some inroads.
Rebecca.
Okay. Hi, I'm Rebecca. For all of you that don't know, I'm the SGA president here at Germanna, so I'm representing the student body. I can talk about an an event we did this past weekend. We went to a BCCS leadership conference, and we learned a lot. We took a lot away from it. There were some amazing speakers. We learned about being a better leader and using the tools that we have instead of thinking about the tools that we don't have, using what we have to be a better leader. And so we had a lot of fun, and we also learned a lot. We were coming up with some new ideas to get students more involved. We did take some ideas from the conference that we are currently working on. We've got a meeting coming up to discuss how to get students more involved and to have better events on campus that will really attract students. We actually worked on something that we all really enjoyed at the conference. They had us, I don't know if you all have heard of Rise Against Hunger, but it's a huge organization, yeah, I see some heads nodding, that pack up food and send it over to areas in need, such as Africa and Guatemala, many different areas that need food with children and people starving. And so our group spent about 45 minutes boxing up food, and we did 10,000 meals in 45 minutes, which is insane, isn't it? It's so crazy. Like, yeah, it's crazy to think if we were all to be, if there were more groups across the country at once doing it, how much we could really do and how much we could impact the world and our own communities as well. Because it created a sort of camaraderie between us, and even though we didn't know everyone in the room, we just kind of got into this, we just developed this way of doing it, and it became really constructive, I guess you could say. And it was really awesome. And so we're thinking about holding it here. We would have to have enough students be involved in order to hold it here because of the amount that we would need to do in order to get them to come out here to do that for us. And we also thought that it could be an opportunity to attract high school students. I know that, of course, enrollment is a concern, and we always want to increase enrollment. So we were thinking that one way we could do that is to reach out to high schools. There are classes called Learn and Serve, or different classes that are based around volunteering. So maybe we could contact those teachers in high schools around us and help those high school students increase their hours, and also see Germanna and see the awesome community that we have here, and see that we have a lot to offer. So we were thinking about that. And
so that sounds like a good objective.
Yes, right, right, exactly. So that is about all I have, but thank you.
Your colleague.
Oh, I think Becca got all that.
Thank you.
So the Welcome Center has been registering students and registering students. Did I mention we've been registering students? Thank you to Jeremy's team for removing some of the barriers, such as one huge one, which was the 2.0 GPA. A lot of students had to come in person to register because if they were new and they had below 2.0 GPA, the system thought that they had a 0 GPA. So every one of those students had to come in, and Jeremy's team figured out whatever the issue was, and that's fixed. So thank you guys. Yes, that was huge. And then Sherry, if she were here, she'd probably talk about the new wait list. So up to 5 students can be waitlisted for a full class. And once a seat becomes available in the class, then the waitlist student, the first one in line, automatically goes into that open seat. So far that's been good. With anything that's new, there's going to be bumps in the road. So if you guys hear of anything strange, just reach out to Sherry.
So one of the other hats I wear is as the chair for the Northern Virginia Regional Center for Teaching Excellence. And so there have been 2 workshops hosted within the past month, one at Nova Manassas on working with millennial students, and then one at Lord Fairfax, which was Cheating 101. And while attendance is always heaviest with the host schools, there was attendance by Germanna. So that was nice to see familiar faces who have also taken the long, lovely drive through the Shenandoah Valley to go to Lord Fairfax, for example. The next workshop will be hosted at Germanna. It's pending for this spring, and based on what we've got going in our current discussions and current needs, I'm going to see if there's a way to identify equity, particularly with underserved populations. So keep an eye out. Registration for the events helps to ensure that we have the right size room and food provided and all of that, so there's always a registration link. But if you've got any questions or suggestions in the meantime, please reach out to me. Thanks.
Well, I've also just returned from the GCCS peer group meeting for student services, and while I was there, I had the opportunity to facilitate a session on guided pathways and academic advising, and that was really a very interesting session. We talked a lot about models that different schools are using, some of the changes people are thinking about putting in place at the different colleges, and we never really finished the discussion. Everybody at the end decided we need to have a full day on that topic, and we would like to have a retreat or a summit for academic advising. So they asked me if I would go and find out how we can do that and talk to the BCC.
We could host it here if you want to.
We'd love to. Other thing that's going on is, Mark wanted me to tell you the reason he's not here, he's at the SDB coordinators meeting that was happening right after the peer group conference ended. And also the other thing we're working with is setting up a food pantry on campus. On the 30th, we're going to have a webinar on food insecurity, hunger, and homelessness. And that's at 2 o'clock on this campus. And we'll be sending out an email about that to get you to come, if you would like to come to that webinar. But after the webinar, we'll be meeting to discuss one of the ways we'll be addressing this issue, and that is setting up a food pantry. The food pantry is going to be in the science building across there, up on the 3rd floor. And the success coaches will be setting up hours that the food pantry will be open, but we'll be wanting everybody to help us with identifying students and making sure that they know to come to the food pantry. We'll be doing the usual things to market to students, but somebody personally saying, why don't you walk with me over there, will make the difference to the students. So you'll be hearing more about the food pantry.
Hi, Sherlyn, and I am the chair of the Diversity and Inclusion Council. And I'm just going to share some of the things that we have done in the past. We have had a student who actually graduated from Germanna to develop what we call the Diversity and Inclusion Council symbol. And we were very excited about that because we paired with the art department, and the student actually did a very good job at designing it. It is on the screen, access screen. I think that's the way I'm supposed to use it. I thought it was TV. Okay, but it's not TV. Okay, and we're very proud that the student hadn't done that. Also, we are SAC savvy thanks to Dr. Monday, and we were very good at achieving our SACs. And now she has added some more to us, so we will accept that since we don't have a choice. Also, we have been visiting various areas on the campus to kind of promote the concept that diversity, equity, and inclusion is for everyone. I hope that that concept will grow even more. We have been to the SGA meetings. We did go to the GSA meetings. We've been to the committee as well to grow the concept that diversity, equity, and inclusion is for everyone. We do have a student survey that's going to be coming out. Danielle's been very good at going out to get input from the students to see how do they see Germanna being diverse and inclusive. We do have a motto. We like you to please use that motto for wherever you go. It is on Blackboard. That's going away. I'm sad to hear that, but I hope that the next one that we do get the motto put on there. It is in the handbook, and it is in all SDB classes, promoting a community of diversity, equity, and inclusion for all. We are looking for members. Our membership rotates every 3 years, but if you would like to be on the council and can't serve 3 years, we'll be more than happy to accept you. So we do have members that are rotating off. So we're definitely looking for all members, and we don't want it just faculty, we want faculty, staff, and students. Sometimes students are a little hard because of their schedule. We have a display cabinet that's located at Locust Grove campus in the library. We have one on the 3rd floor in the Dickinson building, and it has a monthly theme, and we try to get that theme to be very diverse in that cabinet. But if you would like to display anything in the cabinet that you have in your department, if you'll contact me, I will ensure that you can display, simply because I'm not a Susie homemaker. I'm kind of the primary person that's displaying the cabinet. But we welcome anyone else who wants to be involved. We have to do an annual report that goes to BCCS. We had a 5-year plan, an annual report, and that report is due in the summer. So we have to do that for BCCS. BCCS is starting what they call a diversity advocate program, and my recommendation to Dr. Gutson would be that all team leaders should be trained in that. That's coming down. We're not sure exactly when. Dr. Gutson is familiar with that because it was at the place that she was the former president. Also, BCCS is looking to have what they call a diversity and awareness software, kind of like security, to be mandatory for all faculty and staffs. They're looking to see how to implement that because of cost, as everything else is. So if you, we have a website, I can't remember if I said that, we do have a website on Germana's homepage. And also you can get to the link at the top where it's about Germana, and at the bottom it has diversity and inclusion. So my goal as a chair and also council is that you all will become more diverse, inclusive, and aware, and that diversity, equity, inclusion is everybody's responsibility, not just the council. And Dr. Gutson, I would like to know a little bit where you have on here about diversity, courageous conversation.
I'll finish with that.
For testing, we've been busy. Since from July 1st to October the 31st, we've processed 7,160 exams. Our revenue that we collected was almost $10,000, so that's a good thing. Also, we're almost fully staffed. We have one more person, yay, to fill, and we'll be doing interviews the week after Thanksgiving to fill that position, so that's a good thing. I did have an opportunity to attend the Cheating 101 workshop at Lord Fairfax, and I will be presenting here for faculty sometime in the spring. So look forward to that. Paige Durham will send out an email with the workshop on that. Also, Dr. Young and I had the pleasure of hosting, we have our own Germana GED Advisory Board, and Dr. Gullickson, thank you for the excellent welcome that you gave to the committee. Our board consists of members from Caroline, King George, Stafford, Spotsylvania, and the city of Fredericksburg. And they're basically there to advise and support us. And one of our goals is, and which we can put it in as an objective, is to increase our GED population here. As you know, for high-tech testing, we do administer the GED in our Germana Regional GED Testing Center. And so we do have some literature now from Sherry and Kimberly Varela that we're going to hand out to GED test candidates. And so they will know that they have options after taking the GED test. So we're excited about that.
Good job.
When I saw Ann came back, I thought I don't have to talk. But anyway, Cameron left, so I have to talk. Couple of things for the library, and they did send out the satisfactory survey out, and it's going to be for both faculty and students. And whoever gets the lottery will win 43-inch TV. So we encourage you and the faculty and the students to try to fill out the our satisfactory survey. We also had, as Scott mentioned, the new systems coming in for the library and the cataloging system, and our library working with BCCS trying to clean some of the stuff in our current system and getting ready to train the beginning of the spring. For distance learning, I want to add a couple of things. One of the things is we did have a tech spotlight in the beginning of October, and it was very well received. And a lot, on top of the vendors, we invited to come to show the new technologies, but also we have the faculty provide sections to peers, and it's a really nice professional development opportunities for faculty as well. We also send out the survey for distance learning as well, the satisfactory survey. We normally do it annually. That including the technology use and the service regarding our services and the workshops and the professional development. Third thing for distance learning is peer review. As we mentioned previously, we are moving on for our distance learning course peer review process. We currently really granted 6 people, 6 faculty, to receive $500 to revise their courses, and actually the peer review will conduct in the springtime. And we hopefully, this is just the beginning, we hope this is continued on. And working with, what's the committee, distance learning and help me, Jen? Innovative technology. Instructional Innovative Technology Committee. That's a long name of the committee. And work together trying to figure out 3 years plan for peer review. Hopefully that is not only assure the quality of our distance learning offering, but also meet the SACS requirement. I think that's it.
Well, right now. I think you could do an analysis of us. I mean, a little bit, right? Like, what are you seeing? You're kind of the observer. He's a psychology. So I'm waiting. No. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate that faculty have taken time, that all of you take time to be here, but particularly teachers, because your day is pretty overly scheduled, and we're just really proud to have you. Thank you. You're welcome. Mike.
Our office has been working really hard with the workforce to prepare for tonight's Distinguished Philanthropist of the Year event. It's Ed Dalrymple. He's a businessman who owns Cedar Mountain Stone and runs a quarry in Culpeper. And he's largely responsible for developing, along with Ben Sherman and Dr. Wesley and Martha and other people, VCAT and the Associated Apprentice Program, and he employs 11 apprentices, I think, right then out at the quarry, and they're all being paid salaries. Right now he's covering their costs for college, and when they graduate they have guaranteed jobs. So we want to thank him tonight. We're launching a digital media campaign for advertising, in addition to things we've done in the past. There's more emphasis on digital display ads and digital ads that are videos. We're doing a lot of testimonials with students, also with parents talking about the difference Humana has made for their children. We're also emphasizing the ease of transfer and the amount of money that's saved, and starting here and transferring. We've had students who transferred to the UVA and to Virginia Tech, we're featuring ones that transferred to West Point, Princeton as well. If you know of any students who might be willing to give us testimonies, please let me know. In addition to that, we've had a lot of media coverage lately. If you have any ideas about stories, please let me know.
Okay, I'm Emily with nursing, and I think Angela pretty much covered what we're doing in nursing curriculum. I'm also on the faculty senate, and so I'm bringing forward, I don't expect an answer today, but at our last meeting, we had some discussion about sort of where the faculty senate fits into this new structure. Okay, sort of how do we have input on policies, that kind of thing. So that's just what I'm forwarding to you all today. So,
how does it want to be involved?
Well, we would like to have input on you know, revised policies, new initiatives, whatever. We're just not sure about who, how, sorry, you know, how to do that, and yeah. So that's just what we're sort of wondering about and confused about, I guess.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I'm not sure what faculty senate's role was before either, and I want to strengthen that role, so let's figure that out.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Who's done?
I'll be really loud since the microphone doesn't want to cooperate. You're going to hear more information about this next week, but Germanna's been chosen to be the Grand Marshal of the Orange County 2017 Christmas Parade. So I'm going to be looking for volunteers to walk along beside the car to give out promotional marketing brochure and maybe some candy, something along those lines. I'm also working on the state board is going to be coming to Germanna for their March meeting, which is kind of cool. In the 6 years I've been here, the state board hasn't had a meeting here. So working on hotel accommodations and finding rooms, and this will be a great opportunity to showcase Germanna.
Yeah. They were talking about VCAT. For those of you who don't understand maybe where the connection is, the Virginia Asphalt Association and DOT. Oh, you want me to try to use that? We don't know mics, but thank you. We'll see if I trigger it. Ben didn't mention, because he's so busy, but the laboratory in the back of the Fredericksburg Center for Advanced Technology, which we call FredCat now, is going to be opening, and the labs will start in January. So it's going to be kind of exciting in there to watch the students who've been in the program coming through this year actually get back there and start doing their lab work. And if you haven't had a chance to come by the center, come on by. We are open now. We're staffed. We're over there. And it's pretty impressive when you get back there and look at all the mixers and machines and the thumpers and everything else going on. As far as Ed Dalrymple is concerned, the celebration tonight, obviously, it's not too late. If you know any business people that would like to make a donation towards the foundation in support of, appreciating Ed and what he's done for our students, please remind them to go onto the webpage and do that. We certainly want to see as much come in as possible for that. And I don't know if anybody really realizes, I'm going to maybe get the figure wrong, Dr. Dullison, but I know I was pretty astounded myself. To go from about $450,000 to $1.7 million in about a year, right, in terms of revenue for workforce without a change in personnel, that's kind of what's going on over there. So those guys have been working really, really hard, just so you know.
And I think the first quarter, or I should say that, almost the first half of the year, I think you've served 1,300 people or something like that. That's quite a substantial number. 1,300 people have gone through workforce courses or certifications.
And speaking of that, part of that success is because of the Workforce Credentials Grant, which unfortunately we're in a soft pause because they're out of money and hope we get her back by summer next year. And that's going to help about 7, I believe, of our programs. One of it, which is the CDL program, which I oversee, and thanks to...
And CDL means?
Commercial driver's license. And thanks to my trustee, Hi Joy, giving me real-time updates, we are sitting at 96 credentials that we've issued just in CDL since July. So that's pretty significant. So hopefully we'll get more funding for the WCG. That's helped a lot of students. Let's see, coming up in 2018, we've actually doubled the Kids Camps programs offerings. We're going to be doing that in the summer at both both campuses are bringing Culpeper, so that's going to be like Legos camp, App Builder, Minecraft. And what's good about that too is bringing in kids on campus who might not otherwise see it and getting them in early, and their parents are here. So we're doing 4 weeks this year instead of 2, or next year. We'll be here before we know it. I'm going to be chairing the Fredericksburg Chamber's Workforce Now board this coming year. I've been on that board for 4 or 5 years, and the focus used to be kind of on soft skills and working with employees that are working for businesses now. It's drifted a little bit towards more of the high school. We're doing this, they do a STEM event. We just did an event last week called One-on-One, where they do mock interviews with local businesses, which is good, but when I take over as chair and I have more power, I'm going to bring back some of the focus on employees in the workforce now and soft skills, since that's what I do anyway, working with businesses. And soft skills training is still #1, BCCS pushing it. Businesses are asking for it. They can get all the skills in the world, and they get out there. If they can't work with a customer, it's not good. So, and the last thing I was going to mention, and I may have said this before, I partnered last year with Marie Holly. We did a Dress for Success event here for the students, and we got brainstorming a little bit about how sometimes some of the students that were our models don't have those kinds of clothes for interviews. And we've got a closet over here in Workforce that we use for tablecloths, but it has one side that's empty. And we were saying how it'd be kind of fun if there was a club on campus that could organize a little closet that we could bring our gently used and dry clean, nice clothes we don't want anymore that we could have in there in case a student has an interview and has a need for some clothes. So actually Denise and I were talking about it too. She said there may be a club that could take that up next year. So just food for thought. That's it.
Hi, I'm Sharon Williams, and I'm with the Workforce Department. I hope you can hear me. Testing. I am working on increasing the IT classes at Caroline. So we finally have an A+ class there at Caroline County, and we actually had a waiting list. The class was full before we knew it, which was good. The students are really providing good feedback on the class, so we are hoping that we can get them all tested and passed with their A+ credentials. Also, we've partnered with Fredericksburg. It's a high school, Rivermont High School. It's an alternative high school, and they visited Fred Cat. The students and the principal, they just loved it. It was so much fun. So they've partnered with us, and we're going to be providing courses for them at Fred Cat coming up February, March timeframe. So that's really exciting because these students wouldn't normally have jobs as you would see them. They've got different social issues, but they have found some things at Fred Cat that they really like. We've got one student who, she's very much interested in welding. So we're excited about that. And that's all for now in my arena. Thank you, Sharon.
Hello. All right. We got a couple of things I wanted to touch on. One, I wanted to remind everybody that our annual security report, the clear report, is out there on the website. I beg you, please encourage your staff, your students, the faculty to read that report. It has a wealth of information on it. Also, we will be pushing out our fall newsletter pretty soon. In this edition of the public safety newsletter, we're going to talk about a new initiative that we're pushing out called 15.5. And the concept is we're asking you to give us 15 minutes to talk about 5 campus safety programs and services that we offer. And if you want an in-depth or a full presentation on the services program, we will schedule something with you to come in and do a full program. Most of our trainings are about an hour. So if you could give us an hour, come in and do the full training, that'd be great. I am happy to announce that we just, Captain Houghton's, First Sergeant Anderson, and Supervisor Smith just successfully completed RAD for Men instructor certification. So now we can offer a RAD, rape, aggression, and defense class for both females and males. As some of you may know, we only did it for females, and we felt it would be right to offer a similar program for males. We did receive notice from BDM of our full compliance with our emergency preparedness procedures. It sent the documentation in, and received notification that we're again in compliance this year. We have 2 officers that have successfully completed and received certification in a form of forensic trauma-informed interviewing called FETI. FETI is forensic experiential trauma-informed interviewing for victims of trauma. It teaches law enforcement officers how to conduct interviews without re-traumatizing the victim. And we have 2 that are certified now. It's our hope that by the next summer, by the end of the spring semester, we'll have 2 more certified in it. Our 2 Title IX investigators will be certified in it, as well as bringing a program called You Have Options. That's going to be in our spring newsletter, so I won't talk too much about that. And then finally, I want to remind everyone that we have I sent out about the faculty guide handbook on recognizing and responding to students in distress, which is a handbook created by the Campus Suicide Prevention Center for Virginia. We still have some hard copies left, so pull your staff if they want some. Let me know if you want an electronic copy of it. You don't want the hard copy. I got an electronic copy of it. You can have on your desktop or on your phone that you can reference, and then that's it.
Let's give Chief Branch and his crew a round of applause. We are very lucky to have the caliber of safety and security forces that we have, and I think much of that is due to the leaders. So thank you, Chief. I appreciate it.
Just a few updates for you. As the President mentioned earlier, we're going to be pushing forward pretty aggressively on our strategic planning efforts, particularly after we get back from the holidays, in terms of cementing those 5 strategic goals, and then populating the areas under that. And we're going to want to move as quickly as we can, because we want to be in a position by the March report, March 19th, I believe, that we have demonstrated that we've done quite a bit of work, and that the Commission will see those efforts. We're also going to be including, as we're heading into, believe it or not, FY19 budget season, we're going to be incorporating some budgeting components into the planning process to bring some transparency to the process, and to bring some rigor in terms of justification for spending needs and that kind of thing. So be aware of that, and just know that that's coming. I'd also say that we had received requests from a number of budget managers for more detail on their monthly budget reports, and we're working with Joyce and her staff to provide that more detail. Some people want itemized, more detailed categorization on their budget statements, and we will provide that. It's not going to preclude you from using the money in your budget in ways that you see fit, but for those
as long as it's legal.
As long as it's legal, yes. But it is going to provide, for those of you who want to kind of track, do a little more granular level tracking of your budget. It'll enable you to do that. We had the Administrative Services Conference last week, and myself, Garland wasn't able to be there. He took ill, but Lori was there, and Joyce were there. Big topics, shared services, of course, everyone's favorite. That was a topic. I know that that's been the bane of some individuals' existence. We're getting there. We do have mechanisms for providing feedback. There is a management council. Lloyd Warren is our representative on that Management Council, where we can take feedback to them. It's interesting that we've already undergone procure to pay. NOVA, Partners to the North, will be engaging in procure to pay in January, and that's going to be very interesting to see how that carries out, because it's going to be a challenge. Also, they mentioned this was right after the election, so the General Assembly is going to look a little different coming up. I don't know how that's going to play out in terms of funding, perhaps not so much this initial year, but they're, depending on how some races go and how some recounts go, it could tilt particularly the House of Delegates in a certain direction, which may have implications for the BCCS. So just kind of be aware of that. One of the things that is coming out, it came out of a recommendation from the GLOC report, is having a uniform policy on dual enrollment funding throughout the VCCS. Some of you are aware that dual enrollment is operated in such a way that the students who take dual enrollment in the high schools pay a fraction of what the costs are to offer those courses. And those rates of reimbursement, as they're called, vary from institution to institution, and even within institutions. We're an example of that. The VCCS is moving toward a set rate of reimbursement of 70%. That is not going to impact us adversely terribly at all, but it will affect some of the smaller institutions who are heavily dependent on dual enrollment for their headcount and FTE, because the difference, their reimbursement rates as high as 95 or almost 100% for some of these schools, meaning that these public school students are paying virtually nothing for getting dual enrollment class credit, and now they're going to be required to put in 30% of that. So for some areas of our state, it's going to could have implications for the number of students who are in dual enrollment. Just keeping that in mind. And then the last thing I will say, I'll steal Garland's thunder. Most of you know we've been constructing a fitness trail behind the campus here that goes around. The exercise equipment's been installed. The facilities staff have cleared that pathway. It looks really. We walked it the other day. It looked pretty good. But we're going to wait until spring weather to mulch and launch the site. We don't feel like it'd be a good use of resources if we started pouring mulch down in November with all the winter weather coming. It's going to look terrible quickly, and we're probably not going to get a lot of use out of it through the winter time anyway. So we're going to be aware that we'll be launching that in spring. Yes?
How long is the trail?
What is it? 1,000 feet, so almost quarter mile. Yeah, quarter of a mile. Yeah. It's nice. It winds down and then it'll come back up.
Hello. To be all honest, John and I rode more on the trail than you left that part out. We did walk a little bit of it. So with John taking the fitness trail, Stafford, we've been working on Stafford, the new center, moving from the old center that's 5,000 square feet into the new one, 13,000. Walls are up, sheetrock's up, it's been taped. They're waiting to get the electricity in it so they can put heat in it so they can start the finishing part of it. So we've made some subtle changes to the space, and it should keep moving right along. We should be on the time scale we need to be able to move in next May. The next step for us will be looking at furniture and how we're furnishing space and staff. So when you walk into it, it's much different in live than it is on paper. On paper, it looks kind of small, but when you see it, it's a nice space. Locust Grove, we're fighting the boilers right now and trying to get heat back in the building in Locust Grove. But what's great about the 40-year-old building is that it holds the heat. So on days when we have the sun, and the sun gets on the brick and the block, it warms the building. So we're holding on. Most of you don't know it. It hasn't had heat for about a month. So you haven't known it because of the way the building operates. So I mean that's the beauty of a 40-year-old building compared to what we're doing today. So we're working desperately to get the heat back on in the building if we can.
You know, Garland, that your polls about temperature will go through the roof on Monday. Now that everybody knows.
I'm not here on Monday. Nor Tuesday, nor Wednesday. But I'm afraid I am going to be here Tuesday and Wednesday because of this, or Monday, Tuesday. The other thing that I have that actually turned it out for us to be pretty good, if you remember a few meetings back or during the summer, we talked about demand response, about us turning off electricity or trying to conserve electricity, and we get paid. So in June, we turned off for an hour to see what we could do. We were pretty conservative in what we were doing. The demand response company gave us this big number that we could make $9,000 if we did all these things. Well, I knew we weren't going to make the $9,000 because I wasn't willing to do all those things. But for an hour in June, for turning off our buildings, we made over $2,100. For an hour. We got $2,100 back for an hour worth of turning our power off in June.
You know, we really don't have to heat Focus Grove.
I think with the amount of electric heaters that are probably in Focus Grove, not having the boilers is probably not an issue. So yeah, I'm somewhat pleased with the demand response for just an hour, and we just kind of scratched the surface of what we were trying to do with that to make that amount of money. So that worked out good. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Carolyn. By the way, that Stafford facility, we're going to focus on offering the entire associate's degree there, as well as cybersecurity. We're looking at offering some health programs and business courses as well. Let me just finish talking about courageous conversations. I have been in education a very long time, and I still see a phenomenon I don't quite understand. And here's what it is. People of color and people with disabilities, and also students who are veteran students, don't graduate at the same rate that people who are white do. Or people without disabilities, or people who are non-veterans. I have learned in my talking to, literally, I would think I talked to 100, 200, 300, how many people have I met with? Yeah, a lot. In my meeting with people all across this region, I'm hearing over and over again from employers that we can't get good employees. And yet we build training programs, and sometimes they're full, sometimes they're not full. And so we wonder about that. And when I was meeting this week with the Vice President for Human Resources at GEICO, she said we have to hire 300 new insurance agents this next summer, and 300 to 400 other employees. We have that number of demand. And I felt a kinship with that in the sense that we need more students. We need more students because we're all connected, right? But here's the reality. Many of us have set up business processes, and I'm not talking about GEICO. They're probably much further ahead in many ways than the rest of us. But we've set up processes and barriers and learning and teaching situations that not all students can benefit from. That we've created systems that really, as our graduation rate shows, only a few can benefit from. In fact, about 1 out of every 4 students that walks through our door benefits from us. The other 3 turn around and leave. So, here's what we have to do, and what many business and industries have to do. We have to change. We, especially people like me, who I'm the 4th generation woman in my family to go to college. Think about that. I've had the privilege all of my life
Well, the way I would like to do things isn't the way that's going to work for other people necessarily. So it isn't just that we build a table and make room for people of color, or people with disabilities, or people who are veterans, or people who are not like me. What we must do in higher ed and at Germanna is blow up the table. And together create a new table that may not look like anything that we have in our homes right now. But by blowing up the table and building it with others not like us, we'll be able to fill the jobs. We'll make some dent in the huge divide in our society that just gets bigger and bigger and bigger with everything that happens. We will lessen poverty. We won't have hungry children, not in Africa or China or all the places that we thought about. We won't have hungry children in Fredericksburg. And that's our mission. But to do that, we have to talk in new ways, uncomfortable ways, because we don't always know. I don't know what I don't know, right? And I make mistakes. I had a mentor who was 34 years old in my past college, African-American woman, who had the courage to say to me, you know, what you did was racist. And she was, I was the boss, she had a, then there was another level, and then her level. And she had the courage to say to me, that was racist. And let me tell you why. And let me help you understand. That's the kind of level of conversation we have to have here, all across our country, but at Germanna, because that's where we talk mostly, but at Germanna, to really change the table, to really blow up the table that doesn't fit everyone, and create a table where everyone belongs, everyone's successful, and everyone's welcome. But to do that, you're going to have courage to say, I don't know how to do that for Asian men. I don't understand the Japanese culture. So help me understand my culture so that the table that I build is the right one. And people who are not like the majority will have to have the courage to say, this is how you do it. So, that's courageous conversation. We have been in a little discussion about the possibility, for example, of having a campus reading, such as Hidden Figures. Hidden Figures is not the movie, but the book talks about the educational disparities that African Americans, especially African American women, but all African Americans, experience, and how that hangs on today. I'm not sure how we're going to approach it, but we're going to approach it courageously, with respect, and I hope love. I'm most thankful for you. I'm most thankful for you. So you have a great Thanksgiving, and I'm going to go send those goals out. Sharon.
I just want to piggyback on what you just spoke about, to say that one of the ways that we can change that, thank you. One of the ways that we can change that is to really continue to have open discussions like this. And I'm gonna give you an example. I had an experience since I've been here that was unfortunate with a fellow employee, and I thought it was disrespectful. And I cannot tell you that it was race or not, but it was disrespectful as a staff member. And what I experienced was that when I addressed it, it didn't go any further. I'm saying this to say that if things change, if things need to be changed, that the people in charge need to address it with courage and bring people to the table. And it's not punitive, but to say, this person expressed a concern, how can we fix it? And that kind of a thing, if it's not addressed, you will have people, whether it's of color or disability or veteran, that will just say, you know what, that's the way they are. I'll just move on. And you formulate in your mind what it is, and you work with things pushed under the rug, and it doesn't build trust. So I'm just saying that we need to really be open and courageous to address things, and especially leaders. When you hear something, take action.
Well said. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving. So, when's your thing? When's your, anybody can come? No, I'm out of town.
Yeah.